Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Achaibo Clinical Free One-on-One webinar. I am Bea, assistant to Tengu, and I'll be managing this webinar and running the back-end technical side. We're so excited you are able to join us today. Before we get started to our incredible speaker, I want to share a few housekeeping notes. You'll notice everyone's mics are muted and cameras are turned off. This is intentional to keep the focus on our speaker and so that we don't hear any background noises as others join in. Use the chat box as back channel for questions and comments and to participate in activities. You can also raise your hand by pressing the hand button and we'll have you unmuted during the Q&A session. Please reach out to Bea and to other Achaibo team or write in the chat box if you are experiencing ongoing technical issues. All the questions will be addressed at the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will upload to our YouTube channel within 24 to 48 hours. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Tengu muna. She has been in the clinical trials industry for about 19 years now. She is passionate about helping African healthcare professionals become part of this industry and make a difference in the life of patients. Lastly, she is the CEO and founder of Achaibo Clinical. Now I'm going to kick it over to Tengu to get us started.
Thank you, B. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Oh, thank you, B. Really appreciate it. I can't see any of the participants. I think I'm going to have to change my view right now to make sure. Oh, hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Jonah. And I also saw Uzo, unless I'm seeing something else. Anyways, I'm sure that there are going to be more people joining as we're moving along. Hi, Uzo. You keep popping in and out. So yes, so today is a webinar just to go over clinical trials and to answer the questions that you guys have. I know many of you are coming in from Facebook, and I know there are others also coming in from LinkedIn, and there are more people joining. So I will just give it a bit of a second there to allow more and more people to join. I hope you guys are having a lovely weekend. Yeah, I think people are probably going to be joining within the next 5 to 10 minutes. I know what it's like dialing on a webinar, but the good part is that this webinar will be recorded. So for those of you who are dialing in a little bit later, you will be getting the full recording of the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and start. And thank you, B. I forgot to say that. I'm really glad we're back conducting webinars and answering your questions. But of course, these things are not possible if I don't have a team that supports me. B is our chief operations lead. She's the one who's the wind beneath our wing. She handles everything. I mean, really, she literally runs this business. I just show up. And then we have Vera, who's our chief social media strategist. She's constantly researching great articles, seeing wonderful things that we can push. She really works closely with me to ensure that we're giving you guys good content. And then we have Julian, who is our chief people's connector. So he's in the background, making sure that everyone is connected and that you guys are finding the right media groups to join. So that said, let me go ahead and start. And I'm glad you guys are here. I know it's Saturday and I'm going to be as quick as possible so that I don't take too much of your time. Oh, good. If you're if you're on the Facebook group, just give me a little like thumbs up here. Oh, nice. Welcome, Facebookers. Is that what you say? Or Meta people? I'm really glad that you're here. And I know some of you are from other platforms as well. So if you haven't heard about our Facebook group, please go on there and join. And please give me a wave if you like the content that we're posting on the Facebook group. Oh, you guys don't care for the content? I didn't see a wave or clap. Great. Somebody likes it for sure. Okay, you guys. So let me continue on. So B, let's go to the next slide. I think B is controlling this, right? Fantastic. So that was the welcome. We're going to talk about, B talked about our high housekeeping. I've introduced the team. I'm going to talk just a little bit about myself. I think you guys watch the videos and you know who I am and what I'm passionate about. We're going to talk about clinical trials, some of the trends, and then we are going to answer your questions. We're going to talk about Achaibo Clinical, of course, and what we're passionate about. But the main purpose of this webinar is that you can get a deeper understanding of what we do and how it aligns with where you see your life in this industry, or if it's something that you're curious about and you're wondering how things really work in this industry. And then we're going to be available to answer all your questions. So B, let's move to the next slide. Okay, so that's me. Let me close this out. And I am the founder of Achaibo Clinical. I've been in the industry for over 19 years, and I'm mostly in clinical operations, which I love, by the way. So we're the ones who manage the operations behind the product that is actually being studied. And I work globally, and I'm typically manage across the planet. On high, I mean, really lots of country studies. That's how I will put it. Sometimes it's across 162 countries. It might be across more, but it's really very intricately done, where we set up the trial. We pick out the countries that we're going to work with, and then from that we pick out the clinical trial sites. We initiate everything, get all the regulatory and local ethics committee things going on, drive that all the way to when we start recruiting throughout management, and then we prepare for our submissions if that's what we're supposed to do. So next slide, B. So I've worked for small and large sponsors across various therapeutic areas. And I talked about how we do a lot of regulatory submissions. That's really what our purpose is, making sure that these trials are organized properly. There's quality, there's safety when it comes to patients across the globe. And we do a lot of offline and online marketing as well. But I love coaching and mentoring study teams. That's my favorite thing that I love to do. Hence, all the information that I bring to you comes from all the things that I'm actually working on in the clinical trials world. And I'm really excited to share that. So Achaibo Clinical really came from just some of the things that I was seeing as I've been in this industry, especially traveling globally to conferences and conventions, or being on webinars or seminars, and noticing that there wasn't a strong representation of Africans, people of African descent. There just was not a strong representation. But in addition to that, the trials that I work on, typically, they don't have African patients. I mean, we might select, there's some cases where we might select South Africa, but in most cases, we really do not select sites that are on the African continent. And it's not because of anybody's fault, you guys. It's simply because there is lack of knowledge, right? There's not enough training around how the operations of clinical trials are being run. And so these, a lot of the African sites are considered a little bit risky, as I would say. And like I said, it is what it is, right? I think it's really up to us to make sure that we're getting the right information and the knowledge. If you're just joining us, I'm excited that you're here. This webinar will be recorded, so you can go back and listen to it. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, B. So let's talk about clinical trials. I mean, you can always Google this, but what I really want to focus on is that we're using these treatments to prevent, to detect, to treat, or manage various diseases or medical conditions. The focus I would say, in the past and currently, has always been to treat and manage. But with all the technology that's out right now, AI, big data storage, robotics, and all the wonderful changes that are happening in the world, we're moving into a time where a lot of the products that will be coming out are going to be to prevent and to detect more so. And so when I think about patients of African descent, clinical research professionals of African descent, healthcare professionals of African descent, it is really important that we are part of this industry because, you know, the innovation that is in it is something that can completely transform our lives at an individual level. And if you're a clinician on this call, I always think about the fact that the more that we have African-owned clinics and hospitals, no matter where it is in the world, we now give our own patients access to this cutting-edge products. But in addition to that, it's also a good revenue stream for a clinic, you know, and for a hospital. And as we know, clinical trials can really transform the landscape, the health landscape in any country. Most times, clinical trials are used, the income from clinical trials are actually used to transform the healthcare sector. So those are some things that are really important. We will get to questions. This will be really quick, and then we're going to get to answer all your questions. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Let's talk about global trends. I discussed some of this on one of our Facebook videos. If you look at the way that this is structured, you will notice that we conduct the least amount of clinical trials. Because, I mean, I'm looking at regions, right? So we're looking at Africa, we look at the APAC region, the LATAM or Latin America region. And of course, North America always has the highest number in Europe. But here's the thing. North America and Europe, just because they have the highest number of clinical trials, it doesn't mean that it is saturated. There is such a need now for more healthcare professionals of African descent to participate in the clinical trials industry. And as you saw on one of my presentations, I talked about the diversity plan initiative that has been drafted by the FDA, and that was the draft for April 2022. And there is an actual call to the pharmaceutical companies to ensure that they're including, they call them, well, they say minority patients, right? But essentially, it just means that it's patients from different minority groups, especially the ones that are underrepresented. And our patients and our healthcare professionals of African descent, I say, are absolutely underrepresented. So even though it's red, it's saturated, what it just means again is that there are more trials being conducted. But I have to tell you, maybe is it 1% of clinics and hospitals here that conduct clinical trials? I have no idea. I mean, but I know for a fact that it is not a lot. But there is such a need for patients of African descent, particularly, and patients of other ethnicities, that now studies are being proliferated globally. So there's now less studies that are actually being conducted in the US and then more globally. So B, let's move on to the next slide. And talking about that, as you see on this graph, US studies, we're only conducting 32% of clinical trials in the US. Non-US studies are 52%. And I promise you that if you look at the data from maybe 20 years ago, there were more studies being conducted in the US. And again, it's this shift in demographics, right? It's this need for patients who are non-white, but specifically patients of African descent, because as you guys know, we have the largest phenotype and genotype, right? I mean, the variety is incredible. And so when drugs are tested, and also any product, right? It could be a drug, it could be a biologic, it could be a device. When that's tested on us, the chances of it working on other ethnicities is actually higher. So there was such a need. And if you look at the world right now, there are 424. We're getting, like, this is getting into next year, 2023, 2024, 425,000, almost 426,000 trials that are conducted worldwide. And out of those, only 14,900 are being conducted in Africa. And this is just on the African continent. Now, we're not talking about the number of clinicians in the US, in Canada, and the rest of the world who are of African descent who are conducting clinical trials. I mean, it's minimal. And it really I would say it irks me and it's bothersome to me that our own clinicians are not really participating in this industry. And again, it's not their fault, right? I mean, there was no one going around and talking about clinical trials to clinical research sites. There was no one going around and talking to a clinical research nurse or a pharmacist or a lab tech saying, hey, you know what, this is a great industry that you can actually get into with the right information and training. You can completely transform your life. This information is not out there. On my own journey, I happened to stumble into this. I moved to the United States and I was doing something, and through a series of interesting coincidences, I stumbled in this industry. And so I really believe, and I've seen how it transforms people's lives. And because the goal of the industry is to bring great products to the market, is to help patients. So overall, there's a certain level of positivity and high energy, right? We're not researching a product to see if it's not going to work. We're researching it to see how many more patients that we can help. So the people in this industry overall are very positive people. They're the best people that I've ever worked with. And when I say in this industry, I will get into, there are different levels, right? There are the people who are with the pharma company. There are the clinicians that we work with at the site level. And then there are the operations teams, which I mentioned before. So let's go on to the next slide. Again, this curve just shows you where we were in 2000 here and where we're headed. This data is from clinicaltrials.gov, and it is the largest repository of clinical trials in the world. I am there almost every day because, there is, and also, so there are registries around the world for clinical trials. We have to register. There's certain reporting guidelines that we have to meet based on the country. In Japan, with the PMDA might be different, in Europe with the EMA, and depending on what committee that we're reporting to. So these registration guidelines are different, but the bottom line is that we have to register, and that the FDA has the largest number of studies that are registered on their website. But the interesting part is this: there are other studies or clinical research projects that are being run that are not registered on the FDA website. It's a very robust industry. Okay, there might be investigator-initiated studies. Those are studies initiated by a medical doctor, at his clinic, or studies being run by hospitals, right? And there are some, and those are just small on a very tiny subset of patients, right? So those might not be registered on this website. So let's go to the next one. So the industry is unique. And as you guys know, I'm passionate about it. You can tell from the videos that I put out there. And what makes it so special? Let's go to the next one. One thing that I enjoy most about the industry is that it is decentralized. I remember when I came into this industry, you guys, 19 years ago, it was just my first foray. The first thing I realized was that clinical trials are conducted anywhere, any place, anytime, so long as you have the right knowledge, the expertise, right, to conduct them. Then you can, they can be run anywhere, any country. So what that means is that nobody is left out. So it's a globalized industry. If I am living in Abuja and I am a clinician and I want to, and there's a trial that is being run, so long as I have access to the right information and well-trained, I can run the clinical trial and be as successful as another investigator who is in Kyoto in Japan, same study. If I am, say, a lab tech and I am interested in joining this industry, I'm living in Nairobi, and, I've heard about the industry. I'm like, wow, this could be interesting. So long as I get the right information, I get the right way to market myself, I will be able to get into the industry and work in Nairobi. So that's what I love about it. It doesn't matter where you are. And in addition to that, if you want to move, so there are many clinicians who are in the industry who move from other countries. Maybe they come from one country, they go to Canada, they come to the US. and they're not licensed, right? They're not getting their certification. You're a medical doctor, you study, you practice, but you come here, there are all these board exams and you don't want to go through it. Or you're a pharmacist. What do? This is the best industry to get into because you're not required, right? You're not required to have your board, to have passed your board to be able to work in certain positions in this industry. So that's what's really great about the fact that it's globalized. And then when it comes to patients, one protocol, one clinical trial protocol across many countries affecting many patients, it's the same product that is being studied. And I think that is just wonderful. It's adaptable. I love it. I typically manage projects not based on my location. So right now in the US, I'm consulting on a very large scale oncology project across 162. We're planning 162, but we are at 139 countries currently. And it's a really good product, just incredible. We have a patient who's on their 40th cycle and they're doing so well. And so I don't have any facilities in the US. Well, not because when we started, it was approved in the US. So I'm literally in the US managing across the world, right? But I've also been in situations where I'm here and I'm managing a project in Japan, and it's a Japanese pharmaceutical company, and I'm running with them. I'm working with their team, right? Because they need a US presence. So that's the long story. The short story is that it's a sector where you can adapt, right? Doesn't matter where you are, the skills are adaptable. Okay, so let me go to transferable skills. I mentioned this before. You can take that skill set and you can work in any country, in any place in the world. This is the one industry where once you have this knowledge and information, you can use it anywhere in the world. We conduct clinical trials in the exact same way. The information is not out there in terms of the fact that we do have regulatory laws that govern this industry, the ICH GCPs, we have the FDA 21 CFRs, and there are other GXP laws and all of that. But the real test for a lot of people coming into this industry is understanding how the regulatory laws apply to you as a clinical research professional. How does it apply to you as a physician or principal investigator running a trial? How do you take, when you hear something like the PI has to have oversight, what does that mean when you're conducting a clinical trial? So that's where the knowledge gap is. But once you have that knowledge, you should be fine. And then, of course, there are no limitations on professional backgrounds. I do not have a medical background. I'm a poli-sci person. That's what my background is. And I've been able to excel in this industry and really be of service in the way that I want to. Now, I learned everything from scratch. And to me, the real knowledge is being open to learn from other people and having other people handhold you and show you exactly what you're supposed to do. Okay, so B, let's go to the next slide. So who are the players? I'll say really briefly. We have the site level. At the site level, that could be a hospital, clinic, wherever the trial is being conducted. And at that level, there are different positions. The most important ones, I would say, are the research coordinator, clinical research coordinator, who does the procedures. And then, of course, we can have a regulatory person, but then we have also the principal investigator, right, who is typically a clinician because they need to have a medical background to oversee those patients. They would have an assistant. I'm just putting it in layman terms here, a sub-investigator. So that's the site level. Then we move up to the vendor level. Vendors are people who supply services to the pharmaceutical companies that are conducting studies. So on my project, I'm managing about maybe 10 different vendors doing so many different things, and they're located all over the world. So those are what the vendors. The largest one is the CRO, the Clinical Research Organization, because they can not just manage one aspect of the trial. You can actually outsource it and have it managed. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because I want you guys to have an idea of the different positions in this industry and the variety and the abundance. Then, of course, you have the sponsor level. Anyone sponsoring the study, typically it's a pharmaceutical company. It could be the government, it could be a military, NGOs, but the most common ones are pharmaceutical companies that typically are the sponsors. B, let's move on to the next slide. Qualifications. again, how this is a very interesting one, because I get this question all the time. Tango, what kind of qualification do I need? Certain roles require that you have a bachelor's, right? But clinical operations, the roles are really about innovation and growth. I mean, if you want to be in this industry, you absolutely want to be in clinical operations, because that's where the big growth is. And of course, like I mentioned before, there is such a need for African research professionals, and this allows a flexible global career. So B, let's move on. I'm trying to get this go as quickly as possible, because I could talk and talk forever. So what do you really need? You need specialized knowledge, right? So when I say specialized knowledge, it's the knowledge of operations in clinical trials. It's not, you're not going to learn here how to operate on a patient. We don't do that. It's when I'm running a clinical research study, in whatever role that I'm in, what are my responsibilities and what do I need to excel? I always talk about 360-degree thinking, because it's huge in this industry, because we are a very highly regulated industry. So we always have to close the loop. If something is going on, what is going to happen, whatever happens, I have to make sure that I resolve every single thing that brings me back to a position of safety. That's really what it is. Downstream thinking, this thing right now, I'm a principal investigator, I'm at a clinical research site. One of the patients has had an adverse event, and I have to determine, was this caused by the product that they're taking? If it was, what action steps do I have to take, right? And how would this affect the patient downstream? Or if it didn't, then I know I have to, and then of course I have to keep following up on this event until it actually closes. So always, if I am a clinical operations lead in a pharmaceutical company and I have a phone call, there's an issue at one clinical research facility, and it is really, maybe the drug did not arrive on time, because the way that the investigational product is shipped is that we send them to different depots around the world. And sometimes, like, let me give you an example. The war with Ukraine right now and Russia, we're shutting down Ukraine and Russia. And then there were investigational products that were shipped there. So now how do we mitigate the risk of just having them abandoned there, right? Because these are investigational products. And so we have to figure out what the downstream effect will be. Do we just leave it there? Do we just document that we can't get it? So you always want to think that way. Critical thinking is huge in this industry, you guys. And I know you guys already have this. Critical thinking means that if something happens now in my life, how do I make sure I think in such a way that it's not just surface? I was walking around, maybe I hurt my toe, right? I don't just say, oh, my toe is really throbbing, but I really don't care. I have to ask myself, did I hit it somewhere? Did something bite my toe? Does this require some additional care? So I'll pause here for a second. I know I've been going on and on. Can you guys wave if you're following? Okay, cool. I know. I just realized, I was like, oh, I'm just speaking and speaking. Thank you, guys. Thank you for really appreciate it. So B, let's move on to the next slide. So what is our mission? Again, I have to tell you guys, if someone had told me when I got into this industry that I'll be doing this, I would be like, absolutely not. I just want to understand this. I remember then I wanted to be a clinical research associate. I said, I just want to get in. I want to understand how this industry runs. I want to be the best of the best. And so I surrounded myself with extremely intelligent people from all the my clinical scientists who are on the clinical side and operations people. I got mentored. I worked for companies where I had the best mentorship. And then on my own side, I worked on my mindset. I mean, I'm about mind, body, spirit, because in order to get to give, we have to come from a place where we're full, but from a place of service. And so my vision is to put Africa on the map in clinical research. This is not something where it's just one of those things where, oh, wow, you're just going to come, sign up for some program and then that's what we do and things like that. That's the bigger mission. Because if we can put Africa on the clinical research map, what that means is that when a trial is being run anywhere in the world, we have great facilities to run them. When they want to hire people, great professionals, right? We know that, oh, wow, Africa has like the best clinical research professionals I've worked with. When more and more people say, oh, I know somebody who's from Nigeria, somebody who's from Kenya, or somebody who is from Zimbabwe, right? Think about that. I have been to places where I got hired because they knew somebody who was from South Africa or something, right? Just as for me, it is very simple. So when you have a proliferation of certain groups of people who are doing excellent work, then obviously more and more of those groups of people will actually come in. Then I have a passion to provide this training to African healthcare professionals. The training that we do, like I said, it's coming from my experience in the industry, seeing what has happened globally across different countries, seeing who's doing an amazing job, and taking all of those principles and saying, guess what? I'm going to make sure that my own people actually have that. This is an abundant industry. It is an industry. I mean, I could literally scream at it at the top of the mountain. It completely transformed my life. I don't know where my life would be if I was not in this industry. It is incredible that we are in a time when they say there's a recession, there's inflation and all that stuff, but this industry is thriving, you guys. This industry is always fascinates me because I always have to remember when I look at the news, and I don't watch the news, but sometimes things come up. Oh, the world is going through inflation, recession, whatever. That it doesn't apply. There are no trials on hold. We are right. I mean, the budget of my trial is probably, I don't know how many, I think it's about 100 million or more, and we just we need to spend another 35 million for that. And those global trials, everything is in millions. But I just want you guys to understand that when you're in an industry where it doesn't matter where you are in the world and it doesn't matter what is going on in the world, then there is a sense of security there. Let's go on to the next slide. So let me go on to our programs. Again, it's hands-on, it's practical. I coach, I train, I really make sure that you're getting the right information, because there's a lot of erroneous information out there. There are people I speak to some people and they say, oh, I took this course and I took this course and I took this course and I could not get into the industry. Obviously, because those courses are just there to give you the average knowledge. I call it average knowledge. The type of knowledge that you learn something, but it doesn't take you anywhere, right? It's just, oh, I learned that, but you're like, how do I actually apply this? How do I, as a physician conducting a clinical trial, what am I going to do doing study startup? What does it what does it mean for someone to send me the protocol synopsis? How do I now arrange my staff, my facility, and to make sure that we run the trial successfully? And also, how do I also make sure that, I keep getting repeat trials from different companies? How do I put myself on the map, right? You don't know that. Or if I am a physician and I'm thinking, I would like to work in the pharmaceutical industry, maybe as a medical science liaison, or someone who works with the different medical doctors who are involved. How do I do that? I mean, I've never been in the industry. How do I get myself from where I am right now to where I want to be? Or if I'm a pharmacist or whatever it is, or you're just a healthcare professional and you have no background, you're like, I'd love to work at a clinical research site. How do I do that, right? That's really what we're here for. It's to give you the actual knowledge, what you do on a day-to-day basis. It's not technical knowledge, the knowledge that you just go out there and pick off the street, right? You might hear some information, or you might hear the history of the ICH GCPs, but it doesn't mean anything to you because you actually want practical information. Guys, please wave if you like practical information, because I am all about practicality. How do I use this information that you're giving to me? Okay. Wave, you guys, please. If there's one person out there, okay, you guys, yes, who is all about practical. I need practical hands-on stuff. No frou-frou. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So our programs are simple. We are running a 30% off deal right now for all our different programs. And, if you've been here before, we've changed quite a few things. The first option is, it's simple. You get all the information online, and then I coach with you monthly. And we also have ad hoc calls that we do just based on needs. That's our basic program. It's 30% off, and then you have a 3-month payment plan. right? You can split it across 3 months. The second program is really the one where I handhold you. There was weekly coaching. B, can you go back? Thanks. I do that a lot. Like, okay. So where we handhold you, there's weekly coaching. It's also 30% off with a payment plan right now. There's a monthly payment plan for that as well. But it's me showing you, you have all the information, but I handhold you, work you, coach you. Now there are two ways that these people use this. The first one is professionals who want to get into the industry. Same information. You're going to understand what a clinical research professional does, how monitoring is done in a clinical research industry, how a clinical research site is actually set up. Because when you have that knowledge and you actually get a job in the industry, you are way ahead of so many people, because you understand the intricacies, what happens at a clinical research site. Say you're a pharmacovigilance person, you're looking at, the safety profile of a product, and you get some information from a clinical research site. It's different when you understand how that information came about versus just the fact that you don't know any of that. You just happen to stumble on this position, but you don't know the background and everything. So that's important. The other way that this is crucial is if you're a clinician on this call and you're looking to set up for clinical trials, this program gives you all the information that you need. But what I always recommend is that you always, because I know you guys are busy saving patients, saving lives, MDs and all the clinicians, you will need an additional person who's going to be the backup. So that's what this option 2 is about. Really, it is our core program because you can use it to do so many different things. Option 3 is only for people who want to set up clinical trials. You could be a hospital, clinic, institution. You get option 2, but then we now have a tailored program for you. In addition to you getting this information, and on the weekly coaching programs, we answer all your questions and we show you. The difference is that we do stuff for you. We do your marketing, we do your branding, we send clinical trials to you. When you get your first clinical trial, we manage all of it for you and all of that good stuff. So that's really it. So those are the 3 programs. You will be getting additional information about that. Of course, if you need more information, you can contact Achaibo Clinical. You can book a one-on-one call with us. Now, let me talk about this part. Every single program that we have always has success mindset training, because for me, without this, then you're getting information which you apply and you'll be successful. But the point here is not just that we want to be in clinical trials. Oh yeah, I want to run a clinical trial, or I want to be a successful professional. I want you guys to be the best of the best of the best, where you think big, you think about abundance that is limitless, right? You know that it's like just the way that I presented this on purpose, because the industry is so vast, it's so abundant. And then once you come into the industry, then you're no longer limited by, oh, I just want to do this. You start seeing opportunities. Maybe there are people on here who can start pharmaceutical companies. I have no idea, right? I mean, for me, it's to give people information, but make it so unique and laced with success mindset training that has caused me to become the person that I'm becoming, right? And have that. So every single training has that. I do not believe that the acquisition of money, material objects is riches, right? It's a minuscule portion of it. The true riches are when you're involved in something that completely transforms your mind. I say clinical trials are important, and yet in the course of being part of a program that causes you to see your life beyond what it is, that is actually more important. But then you know that you're truly an infinite being on an infinite journey. So it's very different. It's, technical plus mindset success. And it's extremely important because you can get the knowledge, like I said, right? And it's fine. But when you get this knowledge and then you see yourself beyond who you are, and now you have this desire, like I have in my soul, to serve, to teach more people, to spread this information, then that's a whole different ballgame. So my hope is that those who come here go on to do greater things and come into the industry or run clinical trials and use that to serve more and more people. And so that's important. So I believe that I have come to the end of the presentation. And now I'm going to hand it over to you guys. If you have a question, just raise your hand and we're going to be delighted. And before answering questions, if you have feedback regarding this presentation, let me know. I just want to check did you guys follow it? Did you get it? Oh yeah, B, please go to that. B has just reminded me I have one more thing to say. So you can email me. This recording is going to be available on our YouTube channel. All of you guys will be invited to it. If you're on the Facebook group, yay. And then of course we have a YouTube playlist for all the videos that we post. So let's go into the Q&A. If you have a question, just raise your hand and then we're gonna unmute you. And when you just first let us know your name, where you're located, and if you're on the Facebook group, and your question. Wow, I don't see any hands raised. No questions, you guys? Okay. Adebayo, no questions? Shinedu? Christian, it's been a while. I hope you're well. I can't see everybody, but you guys, Elizabeth is here. Hi, Elizabeth. Okay, Uzo has a question. Okay, so B's unmuting you. Hi, Uzo, how are you?
Fine. Well done, Tengu. Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. I really appreciated what you made us understand about the industry and how vast it is. So for me now, currently I work in a system where I program with HIV patients.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, I know when this particular drug, DTG, came out, as dolutegravir came out, we were kind of interested in the drug, how it will be maybe implemented in the country, test trials, but we did not get to see how well it was done across Nigerian patients. So later on, they had the, the research done in one of the facilities in Nigeria, but we were not able to get the feedback or whatever the outcome of that trial was for those patients in the country. So when we started using this drug, we started seeing some different signs, adverse effects that was much less than what was reported in the other documents or reports, or let me say, outside. Because one of the most important side effects they reported about that drug was insomnia. But we got to see that headache and some other GI problems were also part of what we're seeing amongst our patients. So that actually tells, let me say, gives us the importance of having Africans performing or partaking in some of these clinical trials, as you've said. So, what I want to know is how can we, because for me, I work for the government, and is there any way we can leverage on probably your experience, maybe get to know your interactions, your reach inside the country, so that we can know how we can reach out to you, or maybe know where your sphere of influence coming, because there's some other drugs that are coming out very soon that we want to experiment on, probably the TB drugs, want to experiment. So let's know how we can maybe leverage on your experience to help our patients here understand what these drugs look like, the effect on them. Because like you said, most of the let me say research or trials have been done in most of the majority populations. So those minority populations that the FDA recommended that we should focus on, it's probably us. And the genotype and phenotype you mentioned are vast across the African continent. So
yeah,
I believe with this information you're giving me, it will go a long way to help me understand what's the benefit of these clinical trials for our patients in the country will be like.
sure.
So, well, sorry, I forgot to inform you. My name is Chidimuzo Chukwu. I'm a doctor, I'm an ART clinician. I work with the Federal Ministry of Health, and
Perfect.
as well, I'm in your Facebook group. So,
I
thank
know
you
that
very
you
much.
are. I was going to say, Uzo is on our Facebook. Like, I know, trust me, there are people, I'm always looking at the Facebook group who's interacting. And I have so much to say about what you just said, Uzo. Oh my goodness. So when we work with regulatory authorities, I mean, across the world, and each regulatory authority has different needs. This is what there is another issue that you brought up, which you probably do not realize. Because we are not on the map of the clinical trials industry, what happens is that when a clinical trial is run, and let's say it's Pfizer running it, right? Because the Ministry of Health, maybe in Nigeria, doesn't have a lot of information about the process from the beginning to the end, such as getting the results, patients have a right to ask for their data, but you also have a right to have meetings with the pharmaceutical companies and find out, okay, so where are we? Like the clinical study report, they should have sent out a clinical study report, which we write to these facilities, right? So there's a lot of nuances that are involved. And of course, we don't have the right information. So that's the first thing, Uzo. And I have to commend you for what you do. HIV research is not an easy landscape. But the other thing that you said, which just gave me goosies, was this. The AEs, the adverse events or the serious adverse events that were probably in the investigator's brochure, right? Saying, oh, this is what we've experienced so far, or the safety listings that you received. That product, those adverse events, again, you're right, came from a completely different population. So we're taking products that were not actually tested on us. And that's why the FDA actually wants a diversity plan. And that diversity plan, what that means is that you can go anywhere in the world and conduct a clinical trial. And so I think that you need consulting. So I think that you and I can speak, and let me take a look at where the trials are being conducted, what processes can be put in place, what the expectations are. But the other thing is that you can also brand the hospital, the center that is doing all this research, and start getting access to different types of trials. So it's not just on the one hand, we can run trials, right? But on the other hand, we can have the opportunity to map out, based on the trials that you've been running, the kind of patients that are involved in your clinical trials, what they're about, where they're coming from, right? And then take that and shape it out and use it to actually bring more trials. The last piece is community education. I am huge about that. We've done it across so many different countries. The other thing that we do is that also we provide, a lot of information based on the country. Recently, we had a situation in one South American country where we had, for our clinical trial, we had a subset of the population in the rural area, but this clinic was based in the urban area. So we had to create an initiative to educate those patients, give them transportation to come. So the funds are there, and this is something that is important, but I think that also we don't have the knowledge, right? I can talk about this because I work with various governments and, different countries. So I know what is happening. I know what we do to make sure that our trials are very successful. Lastly, it is a very competitive landscape in clinical trials. The project that I'm on is for an oncology product. 2 other similar ones have just popped up. And now we have so much work to do because we have to engage these facilities. So then when we have more of our own facilities in Africa conducting trials, it's streamlined. We have the right knowledge. We know exactly what to do. What happens is that then we can now have strategic partnerships. So a company, like in this situation, then we can say, no, I mean, if I knew that there were facilities in Nigeria that are amazing, they're excellent, or I'll be like, oh no, let's do this. Let's go into Nigeria. Right now, we're adding 12 other countries. I mean, we're so desperate. We have to add, and to set up a country from the regulatory to the ethics board, it is tough. So all I'm saying is, Uzo, absolutely, let us speak, because operations, it's operations is so important. Operations is what rules clinical trials. It's the operations. If you don't have good operations, it means you don't know what, you won't know how to do everything from study start all the way to the end. And the power is in the clinical research side and the institution where the trial is being conducted. It's not in the pharmaceutical company. That's where the power is. And when you have the right information and you have that power and you have something, I mean, if Nigeria could be a hub for African clinical trials, why not, right? Where things are set up properly, where, there's a streamlined process and facilities have the right information, they have the right documents in place, and they're participating. Our medical doctors are part of the key opinion leaders around the world. When a protocol for, say, a specific type of malaria is being written, or a specific type of HIV, right? Our own medical doctors are contributing to it because they're in the industry, they're running all these trials, and they see the data that's coming from it. So absolutely, I would love for us to speak, Uzo. Yeah, you can book a call with me anytime. Maybe we can discuss further and see what you guys are doing. But I really commend you. I enjoy your information on adverse events. That is huge. Yeah, it's different, and it's changing. You're taking Panadol for your headache, but was it tested on you? Maybe it's just a placebo effect, that is, I remember when I was growing up, I had malaria all the time, and I took all these medications, and the effects were very minimal. So yeah, looking back, I think, well, maybe it wasn't tested on any people of African descent, right? So we don't know if it's working or not. Anyways, thank you so much, Uzo. That was super helpful. Very good information. Anybody else? Any questions about anything? Could be clinical trials, it could be the Facebook group, whatever it is. I really want to know you guys' your thoughts on what is going on. Wow, I guess those are all the questions. Okay, well, we have our next webinar on October 21st. I'm going to be talking about something different. It's going to be a new topic. We're going to have the intro, but I always teach something new so that you can learn, as well as learn on our, Facebook group. If you want to be in touch with me, please, book a call. I will be available to answer your questions. I know sometimes it's hard to talk, in a group like this. I'm used to speaking, all the time. So I know sometimes it's actually hard, but I really thank you guys for joining. It has been wonderful. Every dream that you have in your life is possible. It really is. There's nothing, and it has nothing to do with where you're located. Oh, Callan has a question. Okay, Callan, just when I was about to say goodbye, I like that. Yep, I love it when people leave stuff at the last minute, it's going to be juicy. So how can I help you, Callan Abari? Hey, Callan, we just unmuted you. Hello, are you there? You want to type it in the chat, or if we can't hear you, then you can email me, or you can ping me on the Facebook group so we can answer your question, because we can't hear you. Okay, let me see. Let's see here. Okay, Callan, can you type your question on here so that we can all see it? And people always, it's always nice sometimes, because if somebody else might have the same question. So what you can do is just send email Callan. Oh, there it is. Oh, you want to join? Oh, you want to join the Facebook group? Can you put the link? Yeah, you're missing out, Makoma. I'm telling you, the Facebook group is happening. I mean, seriously, the Facebook group, yeah, we have a lot of information on there. So yeah. So Callan, I train on setting up clinical research sites. So I have people who contact me who want to set up a clinical research site. And so the information that I provide really, I don't need to be where you are, but book a call with me and let's talk. B, can you put the link to the Calendly call and also email it to Callan? Because setting up for a clinical research site, the way that we do it, we don't have to be there to set it up. We have all the training and then we meet with you and based on what you need. So to set up a clinical research site, there are two aspects. The first aspect is that we have the online training. You got to understand the industry. Then now, based on that training, you and I will meet and I have to understand what type of clinical research site that you're going to be setting up, Callan. Is it, what therapeutic area it is? Where are you getting your patients from? Because it's key. And I talk about that on my videos. I mean, what is your plan? What is your timeline? Is it in a hospital? Is it in a clinic? Do you have your principal investigators ready? Who's going to be there? Who's going to participate? Is it, and then that's the first piece, right? And then you get all the training and all the information. The second piece is, do you want us to do everything for you? Do you want us to not only train you and all your staff, but do you want us to help you to be able to market, brand you, get clinical trials for you and all that stuff? So there's a lot that is involved in understanding what your needs are. I know it's one question, but in terms of setting up, yeah, we do, when we can set up a clinical trial site anywhere, any place, anytime, so long as you have access to Zoom. Really, it doesn't really matter, or WhatsApp. So I think you should book a call with me and let me talk and let me see what your needs are. And I usually give out a lot of information during the calls that can even just get you going. So please, join the Facebook group if you're not on there. If you watch those videos, absolutely. So, is that helpful, Callan? You can just wave. I hope that is helpful. Okay, good. We will send you an email. B is really good. She's going to send you an email. And if she doesn't, Vera's going to ping you or something, or Julian. Okay. Anybody else? Tolu Lope. Like that name. Oh, and Patrick. There are quite a few people on here. Anybody else? Do you have questions? Do you want to type it so we can answer it? That's what this webinar was about, making sure that you guys meet with me. I know you watch my videos and, you want to make sure that I'm a real human being, right? Discussing live. So if there are no more questions, I'll just give it going once, going twice. Okay. There are no more questions. Again, I am available, you guys. See us at Achaibo Clinical. That's how you can contact me, or you can book a call. It's really easy. You just click on the link and you go through a series of questions, because we have different people contacting us. So when you answer those questions, it tells you which program that you will be going to. So that way I know exactly what your needs are. And please, if you book a call, make sure to confirm that you are going to be meeting with me. Okay. And what I was saying earlier was that within you have the power to realize your dreams. Nobody can come behind your eyeballs, your brain, to stop you. The thing that is missing sometimes for us is just information. I don't feel that we are neglected as the African health sector, which is where I'm in. It's just that there is not really a focus on that, right? Pharmaceutical companies are busy. I mean, they're going to maximize the clinical research sites and clinical research professionals that are ready to go. So it's not that anyone is holding anything back from us. But even with all that going on, You have the power within you to transform your life. Guys, I'm speaking from personal experience. You have it within you. Nobody can tell you what's going to happen in your life. You are an infinite being on an infinite journey it's coming from an infinite source. So that's what I always talk about. And my hope is that through this platform, healthcare professionals can feel inspired and they can get this knowledge about clinical trials so that you can be infused with that hope and faith for something better for your life. And it has nothing to do with your location again, zero. It just has to do with that desire that is actually within you, that you want to move forward in your life. So I thank you guys again, and I will see you on October 21st. Okay, bye. Oh, and thank you, B. Thank you, Vera. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, guys. I don't know what I would do without you. Thank you so much for hosting this. Really appreciate it. Okay, you guys. Bye.